Good afternoon, and welcome back to Unfriended. One thing that'll definitely get you unfriended, or at least it did for decades, hopefully, we're coming toward the end of this, is accusations of racism. And I got unfriended by someone I thought was a good friend for daring to suggest on a Facebook post that maybe the meaning of the word racism had changed and that it didn't really mean what it was supposed to mean anymore. Anyway, I wrote an essay and I'm going to read it here and I will briefly respond to it, to my own essay. And the title is Silencing Black Violence Equals Death. And this is also posted on Notes from the Underdog L. Here's a quote from Malcolm X. The white liberal is the worst enemy to America and the worst enemy to the black man, Malcolm X. And before I get started on reading, I will say I consider myself a liberal still, in the true sense of the word, in that I'm pretty much open to various points of view. But one thing I'm not open to is that whatever it is that blacks in general say they're suffering, I don't really have anything to do with it. Okay, here we go. In the late 70s, when I was in high school, a friend's mother was shot in the head by a gang of black men when her father pulled over under a Chicago viaduct in the pouring rain. Jan's mother's brains were splattered all over her in the back seat. For a few years afterward, she was unable to step foot in the city and refused our invitations to concerts at the Aragon Ballroom in the stadium, where we were inevitably pickpocketed by black teens. But in the mid-80s, she was working in a department store on Michigan Avenue, where I'd stop by to chat whenever there was time to kill before my shift at the pizza place around the corner, which, by the way, even back in the 80s, added a 15% tip after 9 o'clock because of the clientele didn't tip. And if you worked all night and had only a certain clientele, you basically would have been working for free. Okay. Working in the city seemed to be means for Jan to confront the trauma, or so I guessed. How does one go on after witnessing such a heinous act of senseless violence? Chat GPT prompt. Create an image of black gangsters surrounding a family car under a viaduct in the late 70s. Chat GPT. Sorry, I can't help create or edit images that portray a protected racial or ethnic group as criminals or gangsters. Come 2020's Summer of Love and our so-called racial reckoning, Jan announced on Facebook that she would brook no sympathy for the police whatsoever. I was not on board with any of the theater over George Floyd, did not even remotely consider posting a black square on Instagram, and most certainly did not join in on apologizing for being white. The hysteria over what amounted to criminal black males resisting arrest was utterly irrational and did not align with my lived experience. Floyd was not murdered, first and foremost. He'd previously overdosed on fentanyl in police custody and was taken to the hospital for treatment. On May 25th, 2020, yet again, the officers were saddled with an overdosing George Floyd resisting arrest. It's common for perps to claim they can't breathe when getting arrested. Floyd had begun playing that card from the outset, well before laying himself on the ground after having cried wolf, as it were. The sanctioned restraint that Chauvin employed was a safety precaution in case Floyd went into excited delirium, a fit of superhuman strength common among fentanyl users. The full video of the encounter reveals the officers patiently catering to Floyd's whimpering resistance. There is no evidence of any intention to kill George Floyd. The ambulance that the police had called on his behalf went to the wrong location, protracting Floyd's rescue from his idiot choices. That this pathetic excuse for a man was afforded a gold casket, televised funeral, government officials in African garb bowing to his image, and riots that caused millions in damage is an insult to decent, law abiding Americans of all races. Add to this the alleged 27 million payout to his family, who only seemed to show up for the grift. In June 2020, I posted on Facebook the concerns of two black police detectives who'd come to my door seeking access to street camera footage after a 1-year-old black infant had been slain in across the street in gang crossfire. They said that they joined the police force in order to protect their community, having dodged bullets through Flatbush in the 90s on their way to school. My post included the black grandmother of the dead child saying that she didn't want the police defunded. She did not feel safe without police protection. Jan, whose own mother had been brutally murdered by black men right in front of her, unfriended me in response to this post. And another colleague sent me a private message calling me tone deaf. And I have to interject here that my opinion was nowhere to be found on that post. It was the opinions of the black detectives and the black grandmother whose grandchild had been killed. Okay. But I'm tone deaf. Never mind the black baby. Never mind the grieving black mother's opinion on the police. The problem was me. Didn't I know that it's racist to reiterate the facts on black crimes? One might even go so far as to wonder whether Jan, like a lot of racially aware white people, approve of black criminality by protecting it. What is the logic behind this? If I protect them, maybe they won't kill me? This fits German theologian and Nazi dissident Dietrich Bonhoeffer's theory of stupidity. He argued that stupidity is not necessarily an intellectual impediment, but a sociological phenomenon where individuals surrender critical thought to belong to a group. To take it one step further, the stupid person acts in ways that benefit no one, not even himself. Bonhoeffer believed that stupidity was more dangerous than evil. On matters of race these days, stupidity is mistaken for wisdom. In the mid-'80s, around the time of visiting Jen at the jewelry counter, I rented a rowboat on the Chicago River with 3 friends who'd graduated from the University of Chicago. In the boat, somehow we got on the subject of black criminality, a sensitive yet not altogether forbidden topic in those days. The other women in the party felt compelled to correct me in that morally superior way. Don't you know that you're not supposed to mention race if they're black? Back then, I was guileless enough to retort, that doesn't make an ounce of sense. Everyone knows there's a black crime problem. What good is concealing the race going to do? And in my piece, I have an image from Getty Images of Black Blood's gang members, as indicated by the red bandanas, shoes, and cap. The black bandana signifies allegiance to the Crips. In order to jump into a gang, the novice must cut someone with a knife. It's not a stretch to assume that gang initiation was Carmelo Anthony's motive. And now here we are, decades hence, with the same black crime problems, despite the tyranny of censorship on the issue. The worst offenders are the whites who get off on condemning other whites as racist for stating this truth out loud. I've witnessed friends go absolutely apoplectic denying this reality. Why? Whom does it serve? And do they care in the least bit that most of the victims of black crime are black? This is not a right-wing talking point. It's a reality. It's subterfuge and it's evil. On June 8th, 2026, Jonathan Taekwon Pettigrew, who happens to be black, was murdered on a Bronx bus by a teen for asking him to lower the volume of a loud phone call. The teen, who in shadowy camera footage appears to be black, is still on the loose. Pettigrew's little girl doesn't understand why daddy never came home. He just won custody, too. Gotta wonder what the mother's like. A lot of black children lose their fathers to senseless violence and/or prison sentences. Morally superior white people. Why is this tragic phenomenon something to preserve by obfuscating who's behind it? In August 2022, at a Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn McDonald's, a 20-year-old worker was shot in the face because the killer's mother was upset over being served cold fries. The perpetrator, Michael Morgan, 20, is black. So was his victim, Matthew Webb, 23. Two black lives that could have mattered, ruined in an instant on the altar of a barbaric honor culture. These are just a couple of factual accounts of black on black crime. You don't have to dig to get many more such tragic stories. Daily, I am privy to videos of black teens knocking down victims and stomping on their heads on street corners, playgrounds, restaurants, and shopping malls, stomping on the victim's head. When these teens brawl, it seems crystal clear that they're going in for the kill. Or how about these black lives that could have mattered? Jaden Pierre was attending a large gathering of teens at Roy Wilkins Park for an advertised social media water and gel gun fight. A dispute broke out, and Pierre was severely beaten by a mob before 18-year-old Zahir Davis allegedly pulled a handgun from his backpack and shot Pierre in the chest. This happened recently in Queens. Following an intense police investigation, the alleged shooter, Zahir Davis, was apprehended. He was indicted by a Queens grand jury on charges of second-degree murder, first-degree gang assault, and criminal possession of a weapon. Four other teenagers, three 15-year-olds and one 16-year-old, were also arrested and charged with gang assault. The murder sparked deep grief and community outrage across Southeast Queens, leading to hundreds of locals gathering for an emotional vigil in Roy Wilkins Park to demand an end to local youth violence. And what's particularly heartbreaking for me about the murder of Jaden Pierre was that he had organized this water and gel gun fight, and his father was due to pick him up when the event was over. And I'll just interject here. In my YouTube algorithm, every day there's at least 5 huge gatherings of this nature that feature somebody getting shot. And when I think of my own adolescence, and I was around a lot of violent cracker types, nobody got shot. Nobody even got knifed. I don't even remember anybody getting beaten up. One afternoon on my way to the YMCA, a black male came wailing around the corner, lugging a black trash bag. When I reached the corner, I saw a squad car and police officers standing over a black male bleeding out on the pavement. A massive sidewalk candle vigil soon followed. There are many such sidewalk candle vigils all over Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, competing with the memorial murals that always feature a black male. On another afternoon, on my way to work, I saw a black arm reach through an SUV window and fire a gun. A group of black children ran towards me, shrieking with a hybrid of fear and thrill. That's not the only shooting I nearly walked into. But I never walked into one in Williamsburg. I never walked into one where I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. Oh, but I did live in the Lower Haight and had a gun pulled on me there. Guess what kind of person pulled it on me? Then I'm sitting in faculty meetings with white women bemoaning white racism against innocent black people and how the harm this causes. But the anti-Asian hate incidents that they attributed to white circa 2021 were all committed by black men. I saw the videos. Statistically, it is 46 times more common for a black male to kill a white male than the other way around. Blacks are most often killed by other blacks. In Brooklyn in the 90s, police were driving over dead black bodies en route to dead black bodies. A black male had less than 50% chance of making it to the age of 30 during the crack epidemic. It wasn't white people who were killing them, and that's why the prison sentences were longer. Yet there are whites who never hurt a fly running around the barnyard wailing that whites are the evil racists at fault for this. This moral narcissism needs to be stamped out. It's extremely dangerous to encourage another race to hate you for something you never did and would not do. These idiot compassionates don't seem to really care about the black people who have to live around rampant criminality. The whites who foment anti-white racism are also incredibly naive. Take social justice activist Ryan Carson as yet another tragic example. And I will interject here that the meaning of idiot compassion comes from Eastern philosophy, Buddhism, and it refers to people who um, enable really bad behavior because it makes them feel good about themselves and it doesn't help the person they are helping. It actually digs that person deeper into the problem, like the mother who overfeeds her kid or who looks the other way when her kid joins a gang. Oh, he's such a good boy. Anyway, Ryan Carson, white, 32, October 2023, was waiting for a bus on a sketchy block in Bed-Stuy in the wee hours of the morning with his girlfriend, which already lacked street smarts. Really. Brian Dowling, black, 20, came stomping up the street, kicking parked vehicles. Rather than move away from the agitated hooded black man, Carson approached him, saying, "Chill, chill." Dowling turned abruptly and stabbed Carson in the heart. In the video, Carson is seen toppling over the bus bench to die on the sidewalk, dressed in the suit he'd worn to a wedding that night. Carson's girlfriend, who witnessed this murder, allegedly refused to describe the murderer's race. In August 2025, a black man with numerous priors stabbed 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska in the neck on public transit in Charlotte, North Carolina. "I got that white girl," he muttered as he left her bleeding out on the floor of the train. DeCarlos DeJuan Brown Jr., 35, is a repeat violent offender with a long criminal history. We can thank our racial reckoning that Brown was allowed on the streets to reoffend until he impulsively murdered an innocent white woman in cold blood. Wouldn't want to put another black man in prison. At a Texas high school track meet in April 2025, Carmelo Anthony, also black, 17, stabbed Austin Metcalf, a white male, age 17, in the heart after daring Metcalf to touch him. Metcalf had repeatedly told Anthony, who was from another school, to leave a tent reserved for Metcalf's team so that they could strategize the track meet. Regardless, doesn't matter. He didn't belong in the tent. He should have left. Rather than oblige, Anthony's belligerence escalated into murder. Some black influencers' responses to Anthony's 35-year sentence, not long enough in my opinion, are shockingly lacking in empathy, justify murder, and opine that Anthony didn't get a fair trial because there weren't any black jurors. This last assertion reveals a lot about how some black people feel about race that cannot be trusted with objective analysis, and actually a lot of people can't. And that ought to be the litmus test for who you vote for. Everything seems to be about the color of their skin. They can't let go of the lie that white people are out to get them, the same white people whose work pays the taxes that have supported the indigent black population, like the cabals of young black men I see regularly hanging on street corners in Bed-Stuy. There is a faction of this population that cannot seem to stop their narcissistic projections and race bullying. They are perpetual victims, justified in killing anyone who tests their volatile tempers. The talk that they rue having to impart on their sons about the police has a white counterpart that sanctimonious whites censor. Steer clear of violent black men. You can't tell them to please turn down the music they're blasting on the subway. You can't tell them to leave your tent at a track meet. You can't encounter them under a viaduct on a rainy night in Chicago. They will kill you. In response to Anthony's verdict, one black woman shrieked, "You put your hands on me, I'ma kill you." A DEI anti-racist workshop I attended in 2023 demanded overreacting to perceived slights. A Chinese national raised an objection, saying these were just socially awkward moments, which beget a wild head wagging from the black facilitator. I sat in utter disbelief as she recounted the pettiest reasons to go after someone with the intent to destroy their livelihood. Worse, every white person in the room seemed afraid to speak the truth. This is a barbaric perception of social interactions that courts unnecessary conflict and fosters a low trust society. This was training, mind you, on the right way to behave. See everyone as an adversary. Listen for slights. Consider yourselves part of the white group that is detrimental to society, she opined, after advising us to create unnecessary drama. Carmelo Anthony didn't hear Austin Metcalf saying that he did not want to fight him. He went into that tent looking for a fight. Even if Austin Metcalf were a bully, this does not justify a dagger to the heart. Regardless, it's the bully who breaches boundaries and refuses to leave when asked, not the person who reinforces them. Black criminals clearly believe that boundaries do not apply to them, like the black man who invaded my apartment to steal my laptop, like the black man who grabbed me by the neck and started choking and threatening me with rape on a dark Chicago street, like the black man who spat all over me on the subway, threatening to kill me for being white, like the black teens who could have killed me by throwing bricks at my white face in the bus window as it moved through Chicago's South Side, like the black man whose pricey car stereo system set off car alarms up and down the block, like the black man who threatened other students in a class I taught some years ago for getting higher grades on their essays, followed by threatening to knife me over his grade. During a showdown in the department, other professors streamed out of their offices to confess that they had given in to his demands, and also the black administrators told me that he has a right to an education. The white fear of being labeled a racist is doing black people no favors. It merely perpetuates their self-sabotaging, toxic behaviors. The first step to solving a problem is admitting that you have one. Of course, the actions of a few do not define the behaviors of an entire race, and many of my favorite podcasters are black men. Coleman Hughes, Glenn Lowry, Anton Daniels, speaking against the virus that courses through black culture. The only way to quell the violence is to stop pretending that racial grievances are justified. Whenever a white person shouts, they rob, cheat, and kill because they're poor, how about slapping that person across the face, 40s movie style? In another response to Anthony's murder conviction, a black woman says that even though Anthony clearly murdered Metcalf, she's out for her own, just as white people protect their own. Oh, how wrong she is about white people. White people have ruined the lives of other white people over racial issues for decades now, while black people protect their own even when they've killed someone. So imagine like being cast aside by your friends for pointing out that there's a lot of crime in this population, like being told to go take a hike. Meanwhile, on the other side, oh, he just killed somebody in self-defense. But I'm not going to put him in prison for it. But I'm being put in metaphorical prison because I'm saying, you know what? This is a problem, and everybody would be better off if it somehow got solved. Go figure. Um, as Anthony's grandmother leaves the trial, she shouts, "Racism! White people think they can do whatever they want." See the narcissistic projection there? Oh, well, I guess her grandson should have been allowed to stab somebody in the heart for no reason and get by with it. I mean, what is she saying? Um, and again, like even if he shoved Carmelo really hard, and actually, if he had shoved him really hard, he would have been back here, not close to his little backpack, So I don't even believe that he shoved him that hard. So whatever. Um, I'm not going to fight you at a track meet, quote unquote, Austin Metcalf to Carmelo Anthony. White people have been protecting and enabling black criminality for decades. They vilify any white person who dares speak of it. Just bears repeating. White families have been torn asunder over these lies. Friendships have been dissolved by idiot compassionates more concerned about their status as good anti-racist white people than the corrosive effect of this behavior on society as a whole. During the racial reckoning, they got their white coworkers fired for saying that white lives matter too. They have woven a culture of fear around speaking the truth about black criminality to which these do-gooder dupes are rarely subjected, if ever, which perpetuates their delusions. In another response to the conviction of murderer Carmelo Anthony, one black mother wails, "What am I supposed to tell my 5 sons? What am I supposed to do?" There's an Aesop's fable, The Young Thief and His Mother, that tells how a mother praises her son for stealing a school book rather than correcting the behavior. Over time, his crimes escalate until he is condemned to the gallows. As the young thief is led to his execution, his mother weeps as she follows the crowd. The son is granted a final wish to say something to his mother. As she leans in to hear it, he savagely bites her ear off. And I thought this ex post by someone named Tim Woods captures it perfectly. We can hope that the Carmelo Anthony case accelerates the coming of the day when whites say, "We have done everything humanly possible for you and received only hatred and ingratitude in return. You are on your own now," which should have been the case all along. I just want to say that, you know, that the word racism has become synonymous with stating facts is a huge problem. Okay. If you can't talk about this, and if there's something wrong with me, like everything I said here, I'm just repeating the crimes that have been committed. And there are many, 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 many more than I cited in this essay. And if you do really care about Black lives, we're going to be honing in on this Black violence problem and not castigating the white people who dare mention it. It is, as another Substacker, Daily Ken, abatehate.com says, it's a public health emergency. And one thing that really pitched me over the edge during the whole 2020s moral hysteria thing was, first of all, I mean, it was just so twisted. And I had to, you couldn't say anything about this complete inversion. And it was all about like how white people are the problem and white people are the racists. And this was all just obviously projection. And I got on the Facebook community group for where I live, and it's a black neighborhood in Brooklyn, and the racism and the absolute unmitigated directly stated hate of white people was just so horrifying. I got off of there. But that's the other thing. Like, what is this double standard? That if you're black, you can just say whatever you want about white people. You can talk openly about how you want to kill them and you hate them. And then stupid white people are going to enable this by implementing laws against hiring white people, and you have to hire black people, and like this just has to stop. I'm going to say, like, the first thing that we need to stop doing is even acknowledging that there was racism in the past. Ergo, yeah, there is racism and yeah, there is racism. You know what? There's all kinds of human indignity and nastiness that humans do to one another, and racism, quite frankly, isn't even as bad. Well, it was made worse actually over the last several years of this, like trying to correct it. The real problem is the criminality. That is the problem. And the first step to solving a problem is openly discussing it as a problem. There is really no excuse for this problem. No one needs to stab anyone in the heart unless, and I love how this is compared to Kyle Rittenhouse, which was another story that people didn't seem to understand at all and had opinions on. Someone was actually about to shoot Kyle Rittenhouse. That's a lot different from being asked to leave politely several times, refusing to leave, and goading someone into a fight. And I am fairly certain, although I'm not Carmelo Anthony and I could never inhabit a character like that, but people are right about that. I don't know what it's like to look at the world that way, and I don't want to. It is very, very likely that he intended to jump into a gang and intended to slash Metcalf, but the adrenaline got the best of him and he lost control and murdered him instead of just cutting him across the face. That is how you jump into a gang. Street gangs in Black culture are very real. And once I read the New York Police Department gang handbook, I started seeing it everywhere. And I would say that's the other issue. White people need to stop looking at this as if these people are living in the same world you are. They're not. You need to do your research. You need to get in their heads and see what's happening and why things are the way they are. Stop insulting people who actually are paying attention. Open your eyes. If you really care about Black lives, you are going to try to be reasonable about discussing it. I think everybody deserves to live in a nice, safe environment. And that's what I would like to see evolve over the next 10 years. That is the purpose for me of writing about this. Protecting criminality has to stop. It's just hurting people, and the people who get hurt the most are Black. Thanks.